They've killed, tortured, and eliminated nearly 30% of Cambodia's population. These were the gravestones of the last 14 victims. She was tortured here for 8 weeks. In her last breath, she said she loved him. Not even in my worst dreams I would ever imagine something like that.
I am anti-life, dark at the end of everything. What are you?
So I'm here at the genocidal center, and this is the ticket counter. Together with the audio guide, it's like $10. I'm going in to find out. So we just need to scan our ticket here. Yeah? Oh.
Ticket, please. And what language?
Language. English. We have the guides in these languages. Yeah, so this is the audio guide place. I just put in my headphones.
Yeah, and then press number 1 and start.
Where do I? Okay, it's this where I have to wear it.
Oh my god.
This is the audio guide thing. She's searching for a proper guide which is working. Wear these like this. Headphones and so these were the last 4 people to die before the Khmer Rogue regime ended. So yeah, this is a memory of that, and here's a UNESCO recognition of that whole thing. These were the gravestones of the last 14 victims. And with this audio book, you get to hear a lot of stories in the Khmer Rogue. Some of the people are actually alive today. So yeah, they could recount what happened that day. And one of the stories is the story of Bopanna. She was a highly educated woman. She learned French and traditional Khmer, and she believed in both Buddhist and Hindu. She loved her cousin, and he used to work in the Khmer Rogue as a combat, and she wrote a love letter asking him to meet her. And when he asked the regime supreme leader, the supreme leader suspected him of doing something illegal just for asking him to allow him to meet her, and they both were executed in S21. She was tortured here for 8 weeks, but still she signed all the confessions, and till her last breath she said she loved him. So it's a tragic love story that had ended that way, but you know, that was one of the most brutal stories of the Khmer Rouge. It's a really heartbreaking love story, and no one knows what happened to her child. She was pregnant, and there was a miscarriage. She was one of the very few people identified in this whole genocide thing, and it's really horrible. Now let's move on to the stop number 3. Can you believe this whole building was a school before they converted into a genocide center? It was really horrible, man. Who does that? Khmer Rouge, when they came into power, they evacuated a lot of people. They forced them to countryside and changed this into prison to torture people. Some of the arrests were totally baseless, senseless. A lot of people were tortured, or they were tortured to death, more like.
This statue depicts a real life event that happened at S21. A man actually jumped to his death to escape torture. As you see here, one of the only ways to identify victims were by looking at their clothes.
This place right here, as you see, it's very peaceful, but it was a place of torture. There were children, there were doctors, there were people who studied a lot. Real doctors were, all of them were executed for no reason, not just political opponents. So it was just monstrous. There's a sign not to shoot inside, not to film any of the victims in their honor. I decided not to film any of it. But if you're coming here, definitely get the audio guide and see it for yourself. There were even children executed for no reason. Khmer Rogue is just evil. All of these were torture cells, all of these buildings. Another reason to get this audio guide is that actually one of the survivors will narrate this for you. A lot of people are actually being tried who have a direct connection with Khmer Rouge. So they have been punished and jailed. They've killed, tortured, and eliminated nearly 30% of Cambodia's population under the so-called purification. And this guide is basically narrated by a person who survived it. I think only 6 people survived out of the 20,000 prisoners brought here, and some of them actually narrate their own things. So another reason to get this. It's a pretty grim thing, but I'll tell you in the end why I came here. So this is how the prison, S21 prison, or the detention center actually looked like. So these were the detention cells and the torture cells. Just look at these men. People were in prison in here. This monument here marks the end of Khmer Rouge or Democratic Kampuchea regime. And after all this, Cambodia is heavily traumatized. Like nearly 30% of its then population were killed in Khmer Rouge. Like they were meaninglessly killed. Some of them were doctors, some of them were engineers, and the Khmer Rouge themselves, they trained doctors for 4 months, and some people even died because of lack of medicine. They abandoned everything. The Khmer Rouge, they abandoned schools, they burned factories, they burned everything related to culture, like movies, entertainment. Everything was burnt, everything was banned, and it was a really horrible one. After all this, after all the trauma, Cambodia is still peaceful and it's trying to be better. So that's the undying spirit of humanity. Man, it's heavy. I think I need to chill out a bit. Made me really emotional. And here are some of the names of people whose lives were lost to torture in the Khmer Rouge. They were able to identify like 12,000 of them. And there are some pictures I couldn't shoot because they were so horrible to look at, and not even in my worst dreams I would ever imagine something like that. And yeah, Cambodia is definitely a beautiful country. It has lush green countryside, and I'm pretty impressed with all the temples, the history, the people. They're trying to be better, and you can support them by visiting this center, and you can support their economy, show your support. They really need, these people are really hardworking people, and in fact the prices here are cheaper than Thailand at times. So definitely you should add Cambodia to your list to learn a lot of history. And of course, if you want to just chill out, you can do it. If you don't want to do the heavy things like this, that's totally fine. You can totally skip this one. But I personally wanted to come here to see how much of a grateful life I have, or most of us on YouTube or everywhere across the world are living right now. And just look what these people had to go through. And some of these people are still processing that trauma. Some find peace through meditation, some find peace through religion. So yeah, it's a terrible one, definitely. And this is the dark history of Cambodia.
It pains my heart so much to see a country that has ancient wonders like Angkor Wat had to go through something like this. To put things in perspective, I want to quote an iconic scene from Netflix show The Sandman. On a duel with Sandman, the god of dreams, Lucifer, the lord of hell, as Sandman, I am anti-life, dark at the end of everything. What are you? And Sandman replies, hope. I see hope and warm smiles all over in Cambodia. I see it in hotel staff who's hoping to get more guests to his hotel and to make his hotel one of the best hotels in the town. I see hope in Mr. Mab, who's hoping to earn more for his family. I see hope everywhere across Pub Street in Siem Reap. I see hope in MI, who is a tour agent. I see hope in everyday street sellers. I see hope in restoration and preservation of ancient wonders. Cambodia is hope, and hope is indestructible.